I can just about imagine this is probably the face Phil Bryant is making right now after this latest update involving the welfare scandal that's happening down there in Mississippi that mainstream media sometimes wants to, but most time does not want to talk about. Now, the last time I talked about this, which wasn't that long ago, actually, was with Brett Favre and the judge denying him and his attorneys the allowance of removing him from the case altogether. He is stuck in there for the time being. Unfortunately, he still has not been criminally charged. Well, this video is not going to be about Brett Favre. I mean, it is about him, but it's not. But it is an extension. And this is involving Phil Bryant. Now, it's been a while since I've done a video on Phil Bryant solely on him and his involvement. I think I only did one video, and that was probably like last year. So this is probably the second one I've done talking about him. And in case y'all didn't know, Phil Bryant is related to that bitch that just finally took her eternal dirt nap, Carolyn Bryant Donham. So we have two wicked individuals, one who's no longer here and one who might have one foot in the grave, but let's get him before that actually happens. So the most recent update with Phil Bryant is that he has released his text messages with his involvement in the welfare scandal. Now, we've seen the text messages from Brett Favre and his exchanges, but we haven't seen the text exchanges or messages or heard about them until now involving Phil Bryant. So let's see what they're talking about. And the article is coming from MSN and it was posted May 4th, 2023. Former Mississippi Governor Phil Bryant on Wednesday released what he said were all of his text and email messages related to a welfare fraud investigation, including money spent on building a university volleyball arena that was pushed by NFL Hall of Famer Brett Favre. 436 pages of messages had several that already appeared in court filings, including exchanges from 2017 to 2019 between the governor and a retired quarterback, with Favre saying he had agreed to raise money for the volleyball facility at the university and asking Bryant for help with that effort. From 2016 to 2019, the Mississippi Department of Human Services misspent more than $77 million in welfare money that was supposed to help some of the poorest people in the U.S., according to the state auditor. Prosecutors have said that the department gave money to nonprofit organizations that spent it on projects such as the $5 million volleyball facility on the Hattiesburg campus. Bryant, a Republican, finished his second and final term as governor in January 2020. Weeks later, the first criminal charges were filed against 6 people, including John Davis, a Department of Human Services director chosen by Bryant. Bryant earned a degree from, here's the backstory, they got to give a backstory to try to give them cover. Bryant earned a degree from the University of Southern Mississippi in 1977, more than a decade before Favre played football there. Favre's daughter began playing volleyball there in 2017. Messages released Wednesday show Favre and Bryant discussed the possibility of financial help for the volleyball project from the Davis and Nancy New, a Bryant ally who ran a nonprofit organization that had human services contracts to spend welfare money. Bryant had previously said he found out in July 2019 that welfare money might have been misspent. In a text that month, Favre wrote to Bryant, "I want you to know how much I love Nancy New and John Davis. What they have done for me in the Southern Miss is amazing." Favre wrote that he and New's organization were planning to do workshops and youth clinics in the new volleyball facility, but I was informed today that she may not be able to fund her part, and we need your help very badly, Governor, and sorry to even bring this up. Now, that's a little bit of interesting piece of news I didn't know right there as far as the text messages go. I didn't know that they needed help, and that's how they did it. They went and dipped in the money that wasn't theirs because she wasn't able to completely fund her part of the finances. Bryant responded, "I will handle that. Long story, but had to make a change, but I will call Nancy and see what it will take." Days later, Bryant texts Favre to say that the state auditor was reviewing human services contracts. "Don't want to get anyone in trouble for improper expenditures," Bryant wrote. In a video posted online Wednesday, hours before he released text and email messages, Bryant repeated what he had said before, that he was the 2019 whistleblower who told the auditor's office about misdeeds at the Department of Human Services. The fact is, I did nothing wrong, Bryant said in the video. I wasn't aware of the wrongdoings of others. When I received evidence that suggested people appeared to be misappropriating funds, I immediately reported that to the agency whose job it is to investigate these matters. What that reads to me right there is that Phil Bryant is trying to remove himself from the situation, and he about to leave Brett Favre out there to dry. That's how I interpret it. The Mississippi Department of Human Services, with a new director, filed a civil lawsuit last year against Favre, 3 former pro wrestlers, and more than 36 other people and businesses to try and recover more than $20 million of the misspent money from the Temporary Assistance for Needy Families Anti-Poverty Program. No criminal charges have been filed against Bryant, and he is not being sued. Attorneys for some of the defendants in the civil suit have filed court papers that include text message exchanges between Bryant, Favre, and others about spending welfare money on the volleyball arena. In November, Bryant's attorney cited executive privilege in seeking to block a subpoena that sought more information from the former governor. In March, 3 news organizations, the Northeast Mississippi Daily Journal, the Mississippi Free Press, and the Mississippi Today, filed papers opposing Bryant's effort to seal any information he would provide to the court. After much thought and discussion with counsel, I've made the decision to forego any arguments about executive privilege on my text messages in this matter and simply release them all, Bryant said in Wednesday's video. Frankly, I'm tired of paying legal fees to respond to lawsuits that I'm not a party to in order to protect my privacy and an executive privilege that should exist for future governor. That's why I said that pressure is on him. You heard right there. So he just gave his reasoning as to why he just went ahead and just released all these text messages. He said he's tired of dealing with all these legalities. So let me just try to remove myself again and release all of them. And hopefully they'll just, leave me alone. I hope they don't. I hope they grill him just as hard as they should be grilling Brett Favre. Davis pleaded guilty last year in the welfare misspending case, as did New. They're going for that plea deal. Like Bryant and Favre, New attended the University of Southern Mississippi. As a part of her guilty plea, she acknowledged her organization directed welfare money toward the volleyball arena and a pharmaceutical project backed by Favre. No criminal charges have been brought against Favre. Of course, we already know that. So yeah, as based on what I'm reading right here, Phil Bryant is trying to remove himself from the situation because he says he's tired of dealing with it. Well, I hope you know what? I hope he's not tired. Well, I'm not tired of them talking about it. Get as much out of this as you possibly can. Now, they said he released 436 pages. Or was it 436 text messages? It was one of the two. Either way, it's a lot of communication that was going on between him, Nancy New, and Brett Favre about this situation. And I'm sorry, but they cannot just let this guy just skate on by. It's bad enough his relative, Carolyn Bryant, skated on by for many years. Now we're about to say that this is a legacy thing and he's going to skate on by too. I mean, they might as well throw it in the family package. But this guy is far from innocent. There is no innocent party in this situation except for those who were directly affected by it. And those are the ones that were supposed to receive this money. So that's the most recent update as it pertains to the welfare scandal. Unfortunately, he hasn't been criminally charged, which I'm not surprised. And Brett Favre still hasn't been criminally charged. Again, why I'm not surprised by that either. But of course, we will continue to follow the story as more and more updates continue to come in.